Welcome back to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs. We're talking with Dale Berg, and last time we were discussing his time at Easy 103 as well as K-Frog, KDES, KDES, as well as KWXY, where he worked with Dave Hull, the Hullabalooer, and how a health issue got him into internet radio eventually. What was because you've done several internet-only stations over the last couple of years. What was your first internet station that you did?
Okay, the first internet station that I put on was actually a contemporary Christian music station, and I called it 96.9 Light FM. Okay, and started playing Christian music, and I had this great idea that nobody had been doing at that time, and that was to play old and new. So I was playing the classics from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then at that point, the early 2000s, or up to about 2009. And I just couldn't really garner listeners. What happened was I had gone with Live 365 because they, of course, were paying the music licensing fees. They gave me a total of 5 listeners. Okay, so I had 5 listeners.
Wow.
They were anytime listeners. Now, what I had to do was I had to get these people to purchase or buy a subscription for a year, which, of course, would mean that they could listen to the station anytime they wanted to on their player, and there'd be no commercials or ads or anything like that. But to get people to actually do that was next to impossible. And what would happen is that, it was like just for $9.95, And so a friend of mine decided he'd do it, but he didn't realize that they dinged his credit card for the whole year. So now he was stuck.
Oh.
And I was stuck with them for a year as well because they dinged my credit card all at once. And so I just kind of just did what I did. I'd have an average 5 to 6 listeners, and I got a listener in the Philippines that just loved the radio station. But the Christian thing just really didn't take off too well, so I went adult contemporary. And so I'm still 96.9 Light FM, but I was adult contemporary. And I couldn't wait until that year ended. And when the year ended, I just went to Shoutcast Radio, and I had 50 listeners that I could have anytime, listeners, and they didn't have to pay for anything. And so I did that, and at that point, I pretty much got tired of playing Katy Perry and Miley Cyrus and that sort of thing, and I didn't have these smooth jazz CDs that I had gotten. And I decided, why not do smooth jazz? And so I did. And also I had a deal at the time with, I believe it was Amazon, where you paid like a certain amount a month and you could download as many songs as you wanted. And so I just went crazy and downloaded every smooth jazz artist and song that I could find. So I decided to do a smooth jazz station. So I had a deal with Amazon where I think it was like $9 a month or something like that. And you could download as many songs as you wanted, which was great. It was all for free. And so I just got smooth jazz like crazy, all the artists and songs and everything. So I launched my smooth jazz station, called it 96.9 The Oasis, kind of taken after the station that was in Dallas, Texas. And I got an email from an independent artist in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Chuck Eaton. And he said, would you play my music? Well, he was a vocalist and stuff. Well, I listened to his stuff, and he said, well, it sounds really good. So I had no idea where he was from. I didn't even know where he was from. I started playing his music, and he says, by the way, he says, I got a lot of artist friends. They'll call you, and you can play their music, too. And so I said, hey, that sounds really good. And so I started getting these emails from these different artists and everything, and I put them on. And And then one of the artists that I eventually started playing, she was in Canada. Her name was Kiki Love. She made a suggestion to me because, again, I'm trying to find out a way to kind of monetize the radio station because, like you say, it's very expensive. Music licensing was expensive. Plus, the thing is that this one music licensing service that I was with was ripping people off, and all that. And I really didn't want to do the music licensing myself because that's a real pain. So she said, "Why don't you create a page on your website that you would call the Indie Artist page? And for everybody that gives you a small donation each month, put them on the page." And I said, that's a pretty good idea. And so I did that, and that actually worked. And so I began to get sponsors. I began to get people that were making monthly donations, which covered the cost of the radio station and covered the cost of the licensing and all of that. And so that made it work for me. And so it's been a wonderful experience all of these years. And what happened was several years ago, one of the artists, he says, "I think what you should do is you should become a reporting station." And I said, okay. So I began to report my ads that I had to Groove Jazz Music. And then also smoothjazz.com picked me up. And so what began happening was that I was getting first-run songs from mainstream smooth jazz artists. Not only that, but I was getting, more independent artists as well. And so it's grown to the point that I'm probably playing anywhere between 250 and 300 independent artists.
Wow.
From all over. And the listenership has stayed. I had a setback one time because I was listed with iTunes, and that would bring in between 50 and 100 listeners, and they just dropped me for whatever reason. I have no idea. And so I lost that, but I've gained a lot of these people back and stuff. So, and so it's been a lot of fun, and been doing a good job.
That's great. And to hear, it's a model I wasn't even thinking about when I thought, okay, you're monetizing this somehow, but it's definitely outside the box. Not to mention you're playing artists that nobody else is playing, so it makes a unique format, unique station, unlike some others that are kind of like, okay, I've heard this all before type of idea. So that is just terrific.
And it really makes the station sound unique. And the thing that is really, really good is that now that I am getting new music from several different record promoters, there's like really, really good stuff that's coming. Unlike, some of these artists that would contact me personally, some of them I wouldn't even put on the radio. And that sort of thing. So I don't have to think, okay, I got to put everybody on, but I do. Every once in a while, if somebody will contact me and I'll listen to their music and it sounds really good, then I'll put it on. And I'm very, very happy with with one of the artists that I just started playing. Her name is JC Soul. She's from Ontario, Canada. And she lives in Toronto. And she's great. She's got a beautiful voice. And then, of course, I'm getting first run CD, smooth jazz songs coming up next Monday. Going to play a new Candy Dulfer song. A lot of these songs have not even been released yet.
Wow.
So, it's working really well. I also did something else, which I don't know if it's going to help or what. But I'm also getting a Roku TV app created for the radio station.
Mm.
And that will present 96.9 The Oasis to a potential of 59 million people.
Wow.
So we'll see how that works. I don't know.
Well, yeah, definitely. How's Light FM doing? Do you have any independent artists who are on that as well?
Well, that's another interesting story. But I don't. I just play the regular artists from the late 60s through today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very picky about the ones that I play from today. I won't just play everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be working okay. The listenership doesn't really grow, but it's not bad. Okay,
mm-hmm.
It's not like the Oasis. There's no way that it's like the Oasis, but every once in a while it'll grow a little bit, and then it'll back off, and that sort of thing.
That's terrific. I'm just so happy for you, Dale, in this. There's my alarm clock. My cell phone has so many alarm times. It's just crazy. So,
well, at least you're not staying with a friend of yours that is sighted and his wife is blind, and they have talking clocks.
Yeah, exactly.
They have single talking clocks in different rooms, and they will go off at different times.
At 25 or 6 to 4. Actually, it is kind of 25 or 6 to 4 right now, speaking of which. Boy, that's ironic, isn't it? Now, you're kind of inspiring me because my niece plays for an independent rock band, and I'm thinking to myself, man, they got to do something what you're doing for smooth jazz. Somebody's got to do for rock and roll because my niece has this awesome rock band called Tchotchke, and her boyfriend is in a group called the Lemon Twigs, who the Lemon Twigs have appeared on, I think, Jimmy Kimmel as well as Seth Meyers shows. So they've gotten a little bit more exposure than my niece's band has, but my niece is kind of inspired by the late 60s to late 70s sounds as far as rock and roll is concerned. But there's so many other great bands I've seen open for her, perform with her in the same venue.
Mm-hmm.
I thought to myself, somebody's got to do something like this for rock and roll online because it's just not happening right now on the terrestrial. Yeah.
Hopefully somebody will. I know there's one radio station. I don't know if they do or not, but it's big49.com, internet radio station. And they're out of the Inland Empire. And they actually started off as a pirate radio station. I think they were putting out approximately 50 watts at 104.9.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the radio station was working at a radio station in the Inland Empire, and they sat him down one time and they said, if you keep doing this, we're going to have to let you go. And so they shut down that transmitter, and they are now on the internet. So I don't know. They may do independent stuff there.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it out definitely because that's it's just now as far as computers. How many computers do you use for each station to be able to make this a reality for you?
Okay, I have two computers.
Mm-hmm.
I have one computer that is running strictly 97 Light FM. I'm using station playlist software. And what happens with that station is that it's got a built-in encoder in the studio, which is the program that actually plays they got the creator, that's how you create the playlist, and then they got the studio, and that's what plays the station on the internet. And it has a built-in encoder there. And so I'm going directly from that computer program to the internet. So there's no studio, there's no mixing board, there's nothing. Okay.
Wow.
It just goes directly. So of course I can't do any live shows on the stick. The other one, 96.9 The Oasis, does go through my studio. And basically I've got a cable that comes out of the computer, the audio goes into my mixing board, which takes the music that comes out of the station playlist, puts it through the mixing board. That goes through some processing, and in fact, I'm using on both stations, I'm using what is called a DPS processor. It's called Stereo Tool, which sounds really great. And then I actually go through a PBX processor as well with 9690 Oasis. And then I go through an old Technics receiver using the amplifier part of that. And that goes back into the computer, goes into what we call the streamer, which is the encoder, and it encodes the station that goes up to the server, which is in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then from there, it's sent all over the world.
That's great. Dale, I appreciate this interview. And by the way, you said Dick Heatherton gave you some great advice. Anybody else give you some really good advice that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I will. Carolyn, who I worked with at KOCM, she said to me, "You talk, you lose." And that is something that I've used from that point on. So whenever I get into a situation that's questionable or whatever, I'm not going to go talk and try to talk my way out of something. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things. So that, and then also another thing Dick Heatherton told me was don't sweat the small stuff. And then there was another program director, his name was Rob Conrad, and this really helped me on the radio. Let's be brilliant at the basics. So it's kind of like, and Arnie was also one of those people who mentored me and said, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it. Because the less you talk, the better. And then there's Russell Hill, who learned something from the late Rick Carroll, and that's this. He says, shut up, play the music, and give away the stuff. And if you shut up, play the music, and give away the stuff, you're going to be number one.
Dale, thanks for being with us. And this is the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.